Yeah. So, you know.
So I don't know. I have questions for you.
Yeah,
But if you wanted to just tell me your story, like I know it's in the book, but
I can. But you can ask me also. Ask me. I can fill you in
okay.
like that.
So like as you go along, I can just pop in a
Oh,
few questions.
sure, sure, sure.
All right. So I mean, whatever you want to tell me, just
Yeah.
start from the
Well,
beginning.
anyway, how it started, you know, it was the Holocaust started for me at the Crystal Night. You ever heard of that? November 10th, 1938, where they burned all these synagogues
Mhm.
and they all damaged the houses and apartments
Mm.
and arrested all the men. But before that, my life was normal like yours. We saw everybody, Jewish, non-Jewish. They came to my house. I went to their house. I went to elementary school
Mhm.
until Hitler came, and everybody, the teachers became anti-Semitic, and they gave us bad marks and set us in the last row, and so it became bad. And then they didn't want us in that school anymore. We had to leave, and the teachers, the Jewish teachers as well. And then they opened up a Jewish school where we went. And my parents, I had a sister, and my parents were poor. We had a hardware store, and I don't know whether you heard. I was born in the city of Worms on the Rhine. That's where Luther put the thesis on. That's it was a very historic city. Everything connected with history, and the Jewish history as well. It was the oldest synagogue in Europe,
Wow.
1400s.
Mm.
It was burned and ruined before, but it was a wonderful life before. Then in 38 I was 12 years old, and it started really with that everything went downhill.
How were you first informed? Like.
My father was saying the mourner's prayer for my grandparents. He went every morning to synagogue, and he came home and he says, "You don't have to go to school today. They burned the synagogue, and uh, everything was." People came from all over the villages. It wasn't only the SS, and they were just informed they could do what they want. So that's how I was informed. And my parents were discussing what to do, and my father was hiding in the forest because they thought something was going to happen. And I was very upset because I was active as a child, and I was in the children's chorus, and I enjoyed doing that, and also for socializing too, not only, and but those are the things that I enjoyed. Now it's taken away from me for the first time. Something happens. And child of 12 years, and my sister was 7. So that, but the people, the parents in Europe mostly didn't talk about it to the children. Not like here, where you have now all the media and the television and everything, and you know everything, and I feel it's much better that you know. But the parents thought they were sheltering the children, and we really didn't know that's what was happening. And so they came, and we had an apartment behind the our business, and they hear everything, glass shattering and everything. They came to the store, and
Who was it that came through the store?
people from neighboring villages,
Were they Germans?
all German. Yeah, they were Germans. So they were said, well, you could do that. And you see, this is something that Germany was supposed to be a cultured country. All these scientists come and the musicians and everything. And I'm so worried about here now too. What's going to happen? I don't know. But so my father was in the forest in the meantime, and my mother and my sister and I were fleeing upstairs in the attic where we had a room, to store like canned goods and things. And we locked ourselves in there, and we heard the hordes coming up to our apartment, and they looked for us, and there's certain miracles that they didn't find us. But when we came downstairs, the whole apartment was in disarray. Like furniture was thrown. There was not one piece of furniture standing straight. And, well, these were things that started out to be. And we wrote to relatives that we want to go to see we had some relatives in America, they didn't care. And so we went to the American embassy. So they had to give us allowed to go out to visa. We got the number 42,000. So obviously that didn't work. Yeah. And then my father came home, and he came home too early, and then the SS came and arrested him and put him in jail. And my mother saw him every day, and I know it was November 12th, that was his 50th birthday in jail. And one day he wasn't there anymore, and they sent all the men to Buchenwald. And so we was there, and we're trying to straighten out as good as possible everything. And my mother and the two children, my sister was young, but she had like a nervous breakdown, and she had to send them to, I had two aunts in a nearby town that nothing happened to them, so she wanted her to recover a little bit, and that was a good thing anyway. And my father came home about 4 to 6 weeks, and he was a changed man. He aged about 10 years, and he knew that he wouldn't come out. He knew what was going to happen, because the concentration camp, that was one of the first ones there. And we were both registered, my sister and I, to go on a children's transport. England took 10,000 children, and we registered, and then also I was supposed to go to America, to Cincinnati. I had already a family. Well, my sister made it. Her transport went out in 1939. You have to visualize, she was 8 years old. The language, new people. The family took her. They were Christadelphians. That was a sect. And So she was, that was just before the war in 1939. And when we were liberated, and after we didn't see her for 8 years. So it was, when you visualize it was a child, and it was very difficult for my parents to do that. But there were a lot of psychological things involved, because some children said, "Oh, you sent me away," or things like that. And then there was the families where they were liberated, and the children didn't want to go back to them. It's it's a whole. It's not just a physical thing; it's the psychological thing that went on. And then the transports came, and meanwhile I didn't go to school because they didn't open it anymore. And transports went, and I wanted to go with them because most of my friends were on that transport, and my parents said, "You don't volunteer for anything." None of my friends came back from this particular transport. Second transport went in December of 41, and we knew they went to Latvia, and they ended up in Riga. Meanwhile, the population became narrower and narrower, less and less, and we were all put into one building, a former department store, Jewish department store, in the loft. And my mother was always very heroic, and she was a leader, kind of, and she went at night out to friends who we dealt with, grocery store and bakery, and they gave us food and things. And she cooked and everything. We was there all in that one big loft. And then we were called. It was July 1942. And we had to collect in the next town. We were collected in a slaughterhouse. Turned me off, this odor. And we waited for neighboring cities to join us. So we were about 1,000 people. They put us...
How old were you then?
In 42, still 12. I was born in 26. So my birthday is in September, this was July. And so, yeah, we collect. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna just say that, but it's